I want to take this portion of our video series to talk to you about some specialty cases. The first one I want to discuss is military brass. Military brass is a very available and affordable option in 3006, 223 or 556, 308, 762 NATO. The difference between military brass and sporting brass is that the military case is generally thicker walled. And since our outside dimensions are clearly defined by SAMI in all of our reloading dies, that means that the combustion chamber, or the volume of the case on the inside, is decreased. When you have a smaller combustion case, the powder charge will generate higher pressures faster. What you need to be aware of if you're loading military brass is that many reloading manuals will indicate that there is a reduced charge. They reduce it an appropriate amount so that you can operate within safe levels. Try not to mix the two, because what is safe in a sporting brass case will not be safe in a military brass case. The second thing about military cases I want to talk to you about is the crimp in the primer pocket. The military uses a crimp in there to hold the primer in place. Not a big deal. It'll decap the same way that we did before, where we push that old primer out. But when you go to install the new primer, it won't go in right. You'll crumple the primer. So there's a couple of tools that are on the market in order to remove that military primer crimp. You can use a swaging method, which just pushes the brass, because it's malleable, back into the primer pocket. Or there are several, I think RCBS makes one, a nice cutter, which will cut out the primer crimp. The third thing I want to talk to you about is reloading for military guns. While the process is very much the same as we've outlined for sporting rifles, the violent action of the gun taking the cartridge and slamming that bullet home can cause that bullet to creep out of the case. Some companies' tests have indicated that it creeps anywhere from 4 to 7 thousandths, some not at all. Redding makes a great bushing die, which will help solve this problem. What it does, it requires you to measure with a set of calipers or a micrometer the outside dimension of your loaded brass case, and then they use an appropriate size bushing to size that neck down only to the dimension you need to based on your particular brand of brass. It varies in every type, so you need to measure it, and Redding can easily send you 2 or 3 of different bushings of different diameters. But when you draw it back over the expander ball, it gives you a much more uniform bullet grip to eliminate that inertia hammer action, and it also will allow the user to elongate the length of his brass so that it doesn't split or crack, because it's not being worked so hard. The more you work brass, the more brittle it becomes. Neck sizing is a technique that's best reserved for bolt-action rifles. A bolt-action rifle generates lots of torque to close the bolt on that cartridge. As we discussed earlier, when the cartridge is fired, it expands to the chamber walls. And that includes an expansion in the neck area. So if you were to take a bullet onto a fired case, it would generally slip into the case. Neck sizing, different from the full-length resizing we did earlier in the video series, only resizes that portion which holds the bullet. It leaves the shoulder and the case body alone. Now, this is only usable in the gun in which it was fired, but most accuracy comes from that idea of bullet concentricity within the chamber. And if your cartridge case is already an exact mirror of your chamber, it should enhance your accuracy. Very few cases I've seen where it didn't. There is one caveat that goes with that. When you neck size, again, I'll reiterate, it can only be used in the gun from which it was fired, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult to close and open the bolt. Some of you deer hunters who like a rapid second shot might find that to be a little uncomfortable. However, if you're a long-range deer hunter and you find the enhanced accuracy allows you to make longer shots, then I think it's well worth it. There's several good Redding neck sizing dies available. Just give them a call for your particular cartridge, and give it some experimentation and see if that changes anything for you.